Hello, my actor friends. It's Michael Kostroff. A while ago, I did a video called Your First Day on Set, where I addressed just, I guess, some pro tips, things to worry about, things not to worry about, actually, more things not to worry about. And I just felt like I wanted to do some more pro tips and little tech hacks for those of you who are not necessarily that used to or comfortable with being on set. Some things that took me a while to learn. um, and yeah, put them in your pocket, and and as I thought about this, I went back and watched that video and realized that a lot of this is repetitive, and I'm doing that deliberately because there were things that took me a long time to learn, and some of these are little tiny little goodies for you, in no particular order. I want to talk about shoes. Um, if you are wearing shoes that are not particularly comfortable in a scene, you don't always have to. You don't have to wear them the whole time. It is a totally fair question, particularly if you are a person wearing high heels or some other kind of weird footwear, um, to say, are you seeing my feet in this at all? Are you seeing my feet in this shot? You will get better and better at knowing what is going to be seen and what isn't seen. For example, what is when you're filming the master shot, which is the sort of big overall shot that they usually do first, like when they'll usually start by seeing the whole courtroom or the whole football field. That's the master. That's what they usually do first. You're pretty assured that they're going to see your feet. But as somebody who plays a lot of lawyers, I know if we're doing the scene where the other lawyer is doing the cross examination and I'm sitting at my table, very likely that they won't see my feet, but I'll check. I'll make sure. But I might, or if it's my close up, if I'm doing the cross examination and I'm addressing the witness, I might be able to wear my sneakers in that scene. So something to think about. That only took me, years and years and years to learn. And again, a lot of this I learned from watching Stars. I'm like, oh, she's not even wearing her fancy shoes; she's in her sneakers. Um, and again, on long days, that's a good thing to know, and it's also not selfish. It's in the better interest of the production because you're able to do a better job by being selective about when you wear those painful shoes, um, or when you let your feet be especially cold or something. Um, um, when you are, a lot of you will know this, and too bad. Um, when you're doing the other person's what we call coverage, meaning it's a close up for the other person in the scene or the other people in the scene, we tend to do what we call hug the lens. Let's pretend my cell phone is the camera, uh, and it's sort of counterintuitive, because it's weird, but you want to place yourself usually as close to the camera as possible. You sometimes put yourself almost cheek to cheek with the camera. That's going to be different if the camera's going to move. That's going to be a different situation. You can always ask the cameraman or the camerawoman. Why did I say cameraman? It could be very often it is a female DP or female camera operator. The camera operator. Um, uh, these are always good questions to ask, but generally speaking, if it's going to be a static camera, you're going to want to put yourself as close to the lens as possible. It gives them the most favorable eye line. Um, that's just a good thing to know. Um, I have a new thing that I honestly have yet to try out to make me less self conscious when the camera is on me and it's a close up. This is just a mental thing I'm going to try that I like. Is to not think of the camera as scrutinizing me, but to think of it myself as a conduit so that the camera might be facing me, but we're both examining my scene partner. We're both studying my scene partner. I'm just a conduit for the camera. I know again, it's just a particular way of thinking about it so that I don't forget to make it about my scene partner. And what you really get is my scrutiny and my studying and my interest in them. That's just more of a psychological thing. Um, boy, this took me a long time to sort of get. There's a bunch of hustle and bustle before the scene gets shot. Where's our light? We got to get this shot, guys. Let's go. They're rushing. Hang on a second. We got to fix that. There's a shadow there, and it's important as the actor to recognize that. How did I write it down? That was so brilliant. That the rush is for the crew, not for the take. So you've got to recognize that you're not obligated to carry that hurry up and get it done energy into the scene necessarily. Depends what the scene is. You're also not obligated to start talking the minute they say action. I've seen that again and again. I've done it. Action. Well, sir, you got to, and we jump into the scene as if we're really on the clock to get that scene done, and that often doesn't do justice to the material. Action really is more, okay, we're clear. You go when you're ready. We've cleared all this nonsense out. We're giving you clearance to do the scene. We've got all this nonsense settled down to clear the way for the experts. Okay. And it's hard because sometimes it's yelled. They might be off in the distance. Action! And you think, oh yeah, action. I got to. It doesn't mean you have to start spewing lines immediately or even start the movement or whatever. You can give it a transition or a little time to get yourself ready. Give it a window. It's okay. Nobody's like, I said action. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. Unless it's if it's 20 minutes, we've got a big problem. Yeah, you don't have to launch right into it. It's not. It's yeah. All right, I've already said that. I have a whole bunch of these things. So let me just shoes about the coverage, the rushes for them. Yeah, I've talked about this before, and I just want to say it again because it's really hard to get this ingrained. Blowing a line is not a crime. It's not a sin. It's not a failure. It's not unprofessional. It's not something that gets you fired. It's not something that makes people think, oh my God, who's that person? It happens all the time. All the time. Keep your composure. What I really want you to learn to not do is interrupt the energy of the scene by going, "Oh, sorry, everyone. I knew this morning. Can we go back?" And so you've just done two things I'm asking you not to do because it's what pros don't do: apologizing and asking permission. It slows everything down. It makes people tense. It does all kinds of things that nobody needs from you. Nobody has asked you to do any of those things. And you'll notice the professionals don't do that. The professionals regroup and start again. Sometimes you'll see them go, what is it? The cameras are still rolling. What is it? What's the line? Then they'll get themselves back into the scene and they'll do the line. I'm pulling out a book because I just want something to read here. You also want to not just correct the word and go on, because that makes it harder for the editor. You want to go back to a place that makes sense for an edit. So I'm just reading this about the author. Andrew Sean Greer is the author of 5 works of fiction, including the bestseller The Confessions of Max Tivoli. Now that's not going to help if I just go Max Tivoli. That's a bad place to cut. It's going to be easier if I go all the way back to Andrew Sean Greer is the author of 5 works of fiction, so that they get a good passage to cut from. And again, give it a little bit of air. I would stop completely and go back to Andrew Sean Greer is the author of 5 works of fiction, so they have a decent place to cut. Do you know? So again, we get like, oh, I got to be efficient, and it ends up not being efficient. It gives them not a good place to go from, and so there's that. And just so you know, I've made these mistakes as recently as my last job, where I went, oh, sorry, I'm going to go back. Is that okay? Instead of just bloody well doing it, I've gotten better about it. But I I don't have to tell anybody I'm going back. They got it. They're watching, you know. Um, Sometimes I know I've sort of like had a little bit of a oil slick in my pronunciation of something, and I just take a little pause, go back into the scene and deliver it. Now they've got a beautiful place to cut, and they have another choice. So it's great. I'll say it again. Apologizing and asking for permission make other people have to work harder because they've got to say it's okay, and they've got to say yes, you can go back instead of just continuing the work. And I will also repeat that on any given take, you will notice that there's been an error in the camera department and the lighting department and something else, and that's fine. Script supervisor will come over and say, "Oh, this is actually this line." It's all part of what's built into the process. You know, it's a good thing to learn from the seasoned pros on set. You'll see what they do, and for the most part, yeah. Um, you can apologize if you have hit somebody over the head with a prop or shown up drunk on the set. Don't do that. Don't do that. What else? Um, when you have several days of shooting, focus on the lines for the next day. Now, obviously, I do a sort of a general, like, I learn the lines for the whole thing. But then I found this so calming to just go, okay, what's tomorrow's shoot? And then it's like, oh, I only have 3 lines tomorrow. Great, I'm gonna just drill those, you know. And during the day, I'll start looking at the 2 paragraphs that I have for the next day, during filming. But I found it much easier to sort of just focus on lines for the next day. Okay, now, as I've said before, there is nothing wrong with being new and not knowing terminology and not knowing what the various members of the crew do. We get very, very like, I don't want everybody to think you're allowed to be new. You're allowed to tell people you're new. They don't fire you for that. Everybody's been new. It's really okay. And there are many actors who, even if they're not new, never learn what a grip does. And it is not a requirement. You're not going to be drafted into that department. It's okay. You know, it's nice to know. It's good to know. It's appreciated, but give it time. It's really okay. Um, that's really all right. It's good to be respectful and all of that, but they're not expecting you to say, now help me understand what you do. They're not there to instruct you. We're all just making a film or an episode of a TV show. I'm going to give you a couple of terms that you may come across, just a few today. But please don't think of this as like a test for your driver license. You're not going to be required to know this, but I know it will put you at ease to know what a few of these things are. Like I said, the master is that the big shot where they show do the whole scene and you see the whole set for the most part. Coverage is when they go in and get bits and pieces of that, like they get the close up version of that scene for each character. I'm generalizing. Um, insert is when there's like an important shot of the guy is drinking the poison from in the glass, so they'll have an insert of just the hand holding the glass. It's an insert shot. I'm telling you this because it's one of my favorite things. MOS, you won't hear it very often. MOS is when there's a silent scene. They're not going to be recording any sound, and it stands for without sound because it was a German director or sound person that came up with it. Without sound. I really love that one. Um, Sometimes they'll say, they'll say this is over the shoulder, which means the camera is going to be behind here, focused on the person you're talking to. So they're going to see your shoulder, your shoulder and your head. Or they'll sometimes say there's a version of that where they'll say it's dirty, or we're catching a piece of you, which means they might just get some of your hair or just a little blur of some of you. Or they might say we're inside of you, meaning here's me, here's the person I'm talking to. The camera's going to be inside of me, so they don't need to worry about. They're not going to see me at all. They're not going to see me at all. And it's There are a couple of reasons why it's helpful to know. And again, you can say, "Are you seeing me at all in this take? Are you seeing me at all?" And they'll somebody say, "Yeah, we see a little piece of you," or "Yes, we're over your shoulder." Um, if they're not seeing you at all, you might be able to eliminate some of your business, which eliminates risk of sound interference sometimes. So if I was going to be like, stamping doing some noisy business, I can eliminate it, which again helps the editor in the sound department. I will not do those things. Or if it's a scene where I walk away angrily, I can just turn so the actor on the other side knows I've walked away, but I won't walk any further because again, they don't need to hear my steps. It doesn't help anybody. So we can modify when we know we're not on camera. We can modify those things and simplify them so that again, you're not going to be tested on this. Just giving you information so that it's less distracting and less noise and all of that kind of stuff. They'll sometimes ask you to do a wipe. What that is um, um, there's you, there's me, here's the camera, and there's a scene where I'm talking to you, talking to you, and I've in the original scene I crossed, so I'm going to do a wipe across the lens. I'm going to just cross the lens like that, to because I'm going to the other side of the room, and the other shot showed that I did that. So yeah, it's called a wipe. Um, there are lots and lots of terms like that, and again, you should always feel comfortable saying, um, "What does that mean?" I'm relatively new at this. What does that mean? And they'll be happy to tell you. And also, listen, there are. I know Michael Caine did a series of videos about acting for camera there that probably teach you these terms. There's probably, there's that masterclass series. I mean, it probably is. There are probably books and things. If you feel obsessed with learning this terminology, these are really just a few. There are lots and lots and lots of terms. Let me see if I left anything out that I put on the list for today. Um, yeah. Um, this was just an interesting thing. I had and this, God, this just rarely comes up. Rarely. I had a line in a script recently where me and the other character had to say the line at the same time. We said the line at the same time. And so it was just one of those cool things where I realized how much I had learned because we knew that in the master, where the camera was seeing both of us, we needed to say the line at the same time. And we also knew that when the camera was on the other person's close up, we didn't say the line because it was going to make it easier for editing. They were just seeing the other person. They didn't need to see when it was on the other actor. I knew that they didn't need me to say it along with him because it was just going to make it easier for editing. And when it was on me, he didn't say it. I hope that makes sense. I think if you think about it, it will make sense to you because they can always add the sound of the other person saying the line along with it, and it's easier to coordinate if you don't say it during the take. So it was just one of those cool, rare, weird things. Same with interrupted lines. They will uh, sometimes when it's the other actor's close up, he will just interrupt himself rather than have you actually jump on the line. I think this is getting me in the weeds here. It's all much more technical. The bottom line is this: they'll tell you. They'll tell you, and they're happy to do so. And it's not that. Um, it doesn't need to be nerve wracking. They will tell you. Um, and it's really important to let yourself free yourself of having to understand all the technical stuff, which I don't. They may say, "Oh, this time around, talk to him as if he's behind you." It could. Don't worry about it. You don't ever have to say, "But last time I was over here and he was up." Don't worry about it. It makes sense to people who understand camera angles. Don't worry about it. You don't have to. You don't have to discuss it. You don't have to figure it out. Um, and yeah, is this really a 20-minute video? This is a long one. I've been babbling for a long time. Okay, well, tough. Um, I hope that some of this is helpful to you. This has got to be the longest video I've ever made. But I'm just trying to sort of tamp down the anxiety for folks because I think people get, you go on set and you see all this big machinery and all these people running around, and I think sometimes we get a little confused about what we need to know and what we don't need to know. And what we need to know is a lot less than what we think we need to know. That's all. All right, friends. I will see you next week with more thoughts. And if you have any specific things that you want to know about being on set or anything at all, write to me in the comments, send me an email, and I will try to address them. I hope this is helpful, and I will see you next week. Bye.